one of the best ways to look at marketing your show is think of it in terms of two ways: long-term marketing and short-term marketing. Today, I want to explain to you one great long-term marketing strategy for your podcast. This is what you need so that your show is successful, not just today or tomorrow, but 6 months, a year, 3 years from now. What's good, podcasters? I'm Coach Chris. I do host the Personal Branding Playbook, but I'm here to help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast. Now, today we got to talk about a long-term marketing strategy, which is using blogging, and specifically Medium.com. I know that blogging is like you got to set up your own website and do all of this stuff, but the truth is most people don't have the money it takes to set up a good website, don't have the skills that it takes, and don't have the money for SEO. Because what the SEO specialist will tell you is it's going to cost you thousands of dollars every month to really get a boost on your SEO. And you won't really see any benefits from that until you're 5-6 months in the program. And obviously I get it. That's how it's supposed to work. No complaints here at all. But I think there's an easier, more efficient, and cheaper way for podcasters to use blogging to their benefit. And that is Medium.com. Medium.com is amazing because you can post blogs there and you don't have to put a ton of content. If you're posting podcast episodes, that's the meat of your content, right? So what you're really putting on Medium is more like an appetizer, right? You don't have to put a full meal on there. You don't have to write 2,000 words. You can just keep it short and concise because your goal is to get them to go from being a reader on Medium to a listener of your show. And I say listener of your show because if we look at the difference of how people consume content, they're really I say listener of your show because if we break it down and look at what type of content people are consuming, it's really 3 different types of people. You got the readers, people who read newsletters, they read blogs, they read articles, they read the news app on their iPhone. Like, they are readers. They got the book app, they read. That's what those people do, right? Then you got the watchers, people who watch YouTube videos, Instagram videos, they scroll TikTok all day. Those are the watchers. Nothing wrong with those people. Then you have the listeners. These are the ones that are subscribed to podcasts. They watch a lot of videos too, but they also listen to a ton of podcasts. They probably have 3 different podcast apps to separate all their shows they listen to. So there's really 3 different types of people. What podcasters have to do with the long-term marketing strategies is take those people that are focused on that are focused on one different strategy and bring them over to your strategy, right? For example, if your listeners, obviously they're listeners, there's a listener type of person. You want to get people that are either watchers or readers to come over to your podcast. Now, think about it this way. When people are putting their video podcasts on YouTube, that's the same strategy of getting people that are watchers and viewers to become listeners. It's the same thing. I'm just saying the blogging side, the writing side, the readers are being left out by podcasters consistently. And Medium is a great way to get those ears. So again, when you're putting your content on Medium, you don't want to think of it as you have to write these long blogs and you have to be super descriptive and you have to break everything down. That's not what you're not a writer. You don't have to be a writer. Don't be something you're not, right? You don't have to do that. And I would say writing is a good skill, obviously, but you don't have to become this fancy writer to build an audience. That's not what you need to do. Because again, you're putting your content on Medium so it's more discoverable in SEO. Right. If you have good titles, good thumbnails, then and you use those same titles from your episode in the Medium post, now it's going to give you an even more of a boost. Right. And let's say you do this for a podcast guest, for an example. What if their audience are actually readers? They have a huge newsletter. Right. When they promote the episode, because most podcast guests don't really promote the show, let's be honest. When people promote the episode, and let's say that person promotes the episode to their mailing list, their newsletter. Those newsletter people are readers, so they're not going to want to listen to the show. But if they get a link to a Medium article that they can go and skim through and then go and listen, they're more enticed to take action. So this is just a way for you to repurpose your content, but not in the traditional way. I think repurposing now has become this really lazy thing a lot of people do. Like, I want to put it out this way, but really not focusing on distribution. Right? Because this is really distributing your content now, because you're not just taking the audio clip and then making an audiogram and then posting it so you can get 15 likes on Instagram. What you're doing now is getting more actual eyeballs and more people aware of your podcast. That's really what a lot of podcasters struggle with, to be honest. It's not getting listeners. It's just making people aware you have a show. Like, that's the hardest thing, right? So I think we've reached a stage. Obviously, there are over 2 million podcasts. It's really mainstream now. It's talked about everywhere. It's literally $1 billion industry now. So we've kind of hit mainstream, right? With that being said, now you need to start using this to actually market your show long term, right? You don't have to worry about convincing people that a podcast is actually a good thing for them. Now people know it. So now you just have to get them to know that your show is good, right? And Medium is a way, again, you reach those people you can reach before, because the ones that are reading on medium.com, you can't really find them anywhere else. Right. Medium is become its own world. I love it. I'm a reader myself. I love what Medium has done there. Now, I want to give you some other tips on how you can be successful on Medium. First thing you got to do, set up a publication, right? Don't just post these on your profile or whatever. Set up an actual publication. I would say if you have a business, you want a publication for your brand, right? If you look at the Podcast Profit Club, we have a publication on Medium. For the Milestone Club, my podcast network, we have a publication on Medium, because the different types of content you create belong inside of that area, right? That's my blogging platform, right? I don't want to have to set up some website, because blogging isn't now what it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you set up a website and everything, you start posting content there, it's immediately going to do good. Now it takes a lot more work. It's a lot more work, a lot more money. On Medium, it's kind of a shortcut. And again, I know it's not going to get you the same results. I know some people will say, you don't take shortcuts in life. I get it. I'm saying that when you're marketing your show, this is kind of that long-term marketing strategy, like I said. So my goal isn't to get 10,000 downloads from my LinkedIn, from my Medium listeners. Like, it's not it. I understand that I'm going to get some engagement with a newer audience. If I can just attract, 50 to 100 new listeners every month from Medium, I'm satisfied with that, because that's going to add up over time. Again, this is long term. So if you have a business, set up a publication under that business. If you don't, set up the publication under your podcast name. And I like to keep it open so you can always add extra content if you want to. And then it's also really, really, really important that you have the right tags, right? Medium allows you to add up to 5 tags right now. And I like that, because I think with Instagram, the reason why hashtags have become so just pointless is because everybody can add 30? It's just an absurd amount, right? That's just, it's too much. So now hashtags have really lost their value, right? On Medium, hashtags are really valuable, because if I put podcasting, podcast marketing, launch your podcast or something like that, I got only 5. I have to be really selective and specific with the content I'm creating. So now it's going to be a lot more hashtags on the platform, true, but the content is going to be a lot more specific, because you can't just put a bunch of broad hashtags on there. I've seen so many people post on Instagram using 30 plus, it's absurd. They use a ton of hashtags, and then it has nothing to do with podcasting. I'm like, how is this in the podcasting tag? Like, this has nothing to do with podcasting. But Instagram is a beast in its own. But another thing for Medium, when you set up the publication, you have to have it branded correctly. That means, this is where I will say, for me, I don't really talk about the visuals of branding a lot, because I think people will launch a business and all this stuff, and then they focus on the logo too soon, too much. But this is one area I will say you need to have that stuff on point. Like, if you have a podcast or your brand or whatever, you got to have the same colors and font and a presentation to feel the tone of your podcast on your Medium publication. You can't do a totally different platform, because that confuses me as a viewer. Like, if I see and it got to be more than just a logo. Got to be more. Because if I literally just come to the platform and I see that it's just this random ass picture and it's different from what's on the show, and then the name is still the same, but then the colors are different, it's kind of like, wait, is somebody stealing your brand right now? Like, I get confused on that stuff. I don't know if you do. I do personally. So that's something to think about. You want to set up the branding correctly, and then have a consistent schedule. We always know, as podcasters, consistency is king. You got to be, content is still king, but consistency is kind of like, I guess you could say, consistency is queen, actually. Yeah. If content is king, then consistency is the queen. Very true. I like that. I'm going to stick with that. Because if you post the content on Medium, 1 episode every month, your audience can't really get engaged with that. It'll look like your podcast isn't consistent to them. If I come across your Medium platform and you have 3 articles from the past 4 months, and you choose to do one podcast a month goes on Medium, then it's hard to keep up with. As a viewer, as a reader looking at that, I'm like, oh, this podcast doesn't even come on anymore. Why check it out? But I always say this. One of the best things you can do is set up a process for writing the Medium article descriptions right after the episode is live. I think you should post on Medium 24 hours after the episode comes out. Right, you want to limit it to no more than 700 words. You don't want to make it super long and drawn out. 500 words is perfect. You want to get content out there to describe what the episode is about. And I will also say you got to have multiple links to the full episode. Now, when I say that, again, this is why blogging on your website is kind of trash too, because it can get distracting. Like my goal is, my intention is to get you to look at my podcast and listen and subscribe or whatever. I don't need to put 50 links in the blog post for you to do that. I just don't. I don't. If I have to, then you don't want to listen. And then also with websites, it's like the whole pop-up thing. Like, have you ever been on a website and you're just trying to scroll and you get that pop-up like, oh, wait, before you go, give us your email. It's like, no. Or the other one where they ask you for notifications. I don't want to be notified when you post something on your website. Are you crazy? I don't want that. So I just have beef with websites, as you can see. So when you are posting on your Medium article, you want to set it up to where you have at least 3 links to the full episode, right? Maybe 5, depending on the length. 3 to 5 links is good. And then you want to have one in the beginning, in the middle somewhere, and definitely at the end. And just let people know, this is what a full episode is. And another thing, when you post the links, please stop doing this. I'm going to keep repeating it. Stop posting links to Apple. Apple is not the only podcast player. There are a ton of other podcast players now. 3 years ago, that made sense because Apple had like 90% of the market. Now Spotify literally has just as much as Apple. They both have like 40% or something like that. It's insane. So you don't want to post links to Apple because what if I don't have an iPhone? What if I have an iPhone and I prefer to listen on Spotify? What if? Now I don't want to listen to your show because as soon as I click it, I can't even use it. I'm on my Android. I can't use it. I can't listen to it, whatever. Now you lost a listener. That happens to a lot of podcasters for being so focused on using the Apple link only. So you got to set up your Medium publication, start posting your episodes there. It's a great way to market your podcast long term. Again, I'm not saying that this is that strategy that's going to help you get 10,000 listeners in a week. I'm not saying that. But over time, you'll start to notice how this platform helps market your show. You'll start to notice how you get more people that you've never heard of listening to your show and interacting with you. They might respond on your articles when you post them on Medium, to clap for you and everything, and literally clap. They have a feature on there. So yeah, man, check it out. You got to use Medium. And my last tip before I go, please do not charge for access to your content. Don't do it. And I'm saying this because if your goal is to have a podcast and you're using Medium to market your show, you don't want to start charging for the content that you're using to market. It doesn't make any sense because now I'm just there to read the descriptions to actually go to listen to the full episode. Now I got to pay you to listen to read this little, 500 words is going to be 2 or 3 minutes. And then I got to go and listen to the show. That's just a bit much. And then you're not going to make a ton of money with Medium unless you're getting a ton of views. Now, you only charge for Medium access if you're posting a lot of other content. If you have a publication and, you're posting 3 articles a week and then your 2 podcast episodes a week, now you can charge for access to that because you're going to get a lot more views and engagement. But if you're just using it to market your show long term, don't charge for access to your Medium publication. All right, so thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. Also, if you want to check out more about the Podcast Profit Club, we got a link in the description below. You're going to learn how to launch, grow, market, monetize, all of this stuff. Work with some experts, other winners, get dope interviews, all of that stuff. Check it out in the description below. I'm Coach Chris, and I'll see you next time.